October 4th, 2023. Today was a decent day. I'm still feeling really tired with the cramps from this morning. Even my ass is aching from 3 hours of sports yesterday. Finished editing the motivational video. I really like how it ended up, especially the part where A Sky Full of Stars was played. Interestingly, I talked to my dad about my depression. I actually don't remember why I was feeling depressed back then. Let me continue reading. Even though I strongly urged him to give me 1 million Hong Kong dollars. I don't know if I'm gonna survive with 1 million Hong Kong dollars. So I can leave the family and survive on my own. He still wouldn't do so, as he would miss me a lot. I just feel really bored going to school every day and eating in JC. In today's video, we're going to be talking about some of the hidden benefits of journaling that no one actually talks about in this space, and why you need to start journaling as soon as today, and how easy it is, to be honest, to just get started. Another highlight was reading Law Number 10 in The Diary of a CEO, 33 Laws of Business and Life book. He states in the book how many big brands are known for absurdity, like his company was known for a big blue slide, which he bought with his money that he earned by signing his first big client. He actually didn't expect something like this to make his brand successful, as normal people would think that rational ways, like more advertising and more marketing, would increase the chance for a jackpot. At one point, his business was featured on BBC News, Forbes, ABC News, and known to be one of the most playful and innovative brand just because of this big blue slide. This was October 4th, 2023. I was super invested in this whole hustle culture and really focused on making money. One of the things I did on the side every single day was I would spend an hour or even 2 hours just typing up all of my thoughts and all of my learnings, as if I knew that one day I'm going to be looking back at it and it's going to be somehow useful. I also switched from journaling with my hand, and I used to keep like a paper journal when I first started, which is pretty full. And then I moved to journaling on an app called Day One, which I'll also link in the description if you're interested in it. It's a free app to journal and put pictures in. And what I've found is that I'm able to dump more of my thoughts in less time, because when I was writing on my paper journal, I would spend nearly 3 hours because I just have so many thoughts during that day to dump down. And that would take up so much time, and I still have school, and I still have like this thing to do and that thing. So I thought to transition to digital journal. And really, my understanding of journaling is that there is no right way to journal. So you can easily just journal on like a notebook or like digital journal, or even paper in general. That can be counted as journaling. And I see journaling as more like a reflection process, as something that you invent yourself without following like a particular structure, and just doing what feels right for you in that moment. So for example, if you feel like you have a constant flux of emotion during that period of time, then maybe an ideal journaling strategy will be to dump all of that emotion and figure out why you're facing that emotion, if it's really bothering you, right? And maybe you're facing another situation where you're trying to figure out some kind of problem that you're facing in school or doing some kind of project, right? Journaling can help you gather all of the different perspectives and really look at it in a bigger picture. So really, my understanding of journaling is whatever I need to use it for during that time. And if really there's nothing in particular, then just noting down what I've done just helps me build the awareness of living this life, right? And like building this identity on who I am, right? Just figuring out who this person is on the inside and what you're actually doing, so then you can make better decisions in the future. Post-experience week depression continues. November 22nd, 2023, 9:20 p.m. It's, I think, 2 nights in a row for me to have a wet dream. Okay. I think I'm exposing myself here a lot. IDK if this is normal, but sorry for pointing this out, lol. Before we get into today, I just really got to say that my abs are actually starting to form, which is really interesting. Yeah, I think that period was when I started doing constantly like sit-ups every single day, like 50 in a row, for like I think like 6 months into it. And then it really starting to see progress, because in the beginning I thought it was going to take much more workout and much more time, but then I was pretty surprised with how consistency can really compound into something greater. Normally I would have to tense up my abs in order for me to see the shape of the abs, but today I don't even have to tense it up, and I can somehow see it still. Just crazy. Now I actually start to see The small things compound over time, saying from many creators. Okay, that's exactly what I explained just now, which is kind of funny. Thought I was gonna again sleep like 1 hour earlier, but I was fucking all crazy on summer program applications. Oh yeah, I remember back then it was like my junior year summer and everyone was like trying to get these college credits so then they can graduate earlier. So now I was trying to apply to like the top schools like Stanford, Wharton, Harvard, and things like that, trying to get in. And I remember that year I actually got rejected by all of the schools. So applied for the Stanford one, as well as starting to think about the Wharton program in Harvard starts December 1st. Here was the second essay which I came up for Stanford BTW. I remember this problem was pretty funny. I think my writing was horrible because I was using my copywriting language and putting it for Stanford, which is kind of crazy because they probably expect like academic writing and like going through the college application right now. I know how much they want on you showing your values and stuff like that. So doing something like copywriting is kind of funny and like basically having like a casual essay. No wonder why I didn't get accepted. Back to some updates on school, and I did bullet points. Did my math crit B today, didn't manage to finish. Play short tennis, forget to wear my PE clothes. Started doing patient consulting, had Robin today, blah, blah, blah. To-do list. Agency update, realized that I'm scraping leads for the wrong way, and then to-do lists. Right when I come back, I have this and this. I already know. Remember, bro, 1% compounds every day, BY. See, I think like looking back at these journal entries, to be honest, like one thing is that you'll be able to just remember all of these past events because especially with the human mind, it's such a beautiful thing, yet sometimes it's not as great because we don't remember what happened like couple months ago, right? Especially when so many things are going on. So just by journaling, you can really see how much you've like, grown over the past few years. And just by looking at that, you'll just give yourself a sense of joy and this sense of identity. And it could really be as simple as dumping down a to-do list or dumping down what's been going on in your life. And that might spark some kind of other memory or some kind of other experience for you to recap or for you to reflect on in the future in like a period like right now. When I look back at my teenagehood, I can kind of find patterns with what's been coming up and what I might want to explore during college because I actually have it all documented down on like what happened every single day or at least every other day, right? And one thing that I've found with journaling is that especially when I'm trying to put more effort or put more consistency into achieving my goal, journaling can be a really super useful tool to remind myself on how far I've gone in this journey and really keep pushing and motivating me to hit my goals because I'm able to see the progress that I'm making, right? And especially during this day and age when you're trying to build your passion project, but then not many people around you are doing the same thing or they're trying to follow the traditional path. Journaling can be a really good friend of yours to just continue motivating yourself. It's like you're accumulating Duolingo streaks, right? And taking a very similar concept into journaling, you're kind of accumulating and seeing your progress build over time and seeing the transformation, and that will continue putting you into this positive loop to get you more motivated to achieve your goals and really, especially during the days when things aren't going your way, then it can be a really powerful tool to remind you how far you've gone and give you that willpower to continue pushing. One big misunderstanding with journaling is that many people think that there's going to be a specific formula, specific way to do journaling, and one is more effective, other one's less effective, especially during this day and age when everything has a formula. Right? We're taught formulas in school. We're taught to do things this way and do things that way. This is better, that is not as great. But then in reality, I've realized that there's really no right answer to how you should be journaling because over time I've realized that my journaling strategy or journaling patterns have really varied. Like I don't really follow a particular template, right? And even if I do follow a template, that will change over time and I will test out different things because I might find something interesting there, and different seasons of life means that you have different thinking and different needs for dumping your thoughts down. So really don't bind yourself into a particular strategy because when you do that, you're actually limiting your own creativity. So really let it flow, like do what feels most natural to you. And the beautiful thing is that you can keep these journals to yourself if you don't want to be sharing them. And this is why it's called diary. This is why it's called journal, because it's something for yourself to reflect on and to build like a relationship with. Conspiracy theory in TOK class, LOL. Tuesday currently just had TOK, talked about Elon Musk's brain chip, if it's right or wrong. Something just came up, which was exploration versus sense of direction. When we think back to our ancestors, they did not have anything to help them explore. God did that on purpose. That was a pretty random conclusion. They had to explore themselves. They were happy yet confused at times, but did not have crazy problems like us today. This gave them the lack of direction. Only after generations did they manage to have rule books, invent school. And because population was growing and humans' nature of greed, they had wars, problems, etc. I realized that one of the main motivations of going to school is to feel like I have direction. Especially with entrepreneurship, you have your own rules. You don't know where you're going. That's why I'm committing to exploring things, aka entrepreneurship. And lack of direction is good because that's God's purpose of putting us in this world to find our own passions and ways to live. Or else why did he not invent maps already to guide people on where they want to go? Basically make us an animal like a lion without emotions/thoughts. The gift of human beings is having emotions, so do something you like in life even though it may seem scary. Looking back at this now, I wouldn't fully agree with everything that I'm saying, but you can see how noting this down, I remember I was writing this like right after the class. Like when I was walking to my next block, I just went straight onto my diary app because I thought this was something interesting. I just started popping my entire thoughts in. And I think one really useful case with journaling that a lot of people don't talk about is how it can also be a really good notes app, but then it's actually dumping more than just bullet points and maybe some of your specific thoughts. One thing that you notice with a notes app, especially on your phone, is that it's pretty unorganized. And like over time, it's really hard to track it, and you can have like so many different notes. And with my notes app, it's filled with like hundreds or thousands of just light bullet points without fully flushing it. But then writing it on a journal gives me this sense of doing it in a more proper way, even though I want to express it in like a free way and not like restrict how I'm writing it. But then it makes it feel more, how can I describe this? It feels more genuine and feels more elegant in a certain sense, because I know that by writing this note down, I am kind of representing what my thoughts are during that day. So it's kind of like writing down like what was your one best highlight during that day. And with giving that elegant vibe, it will help me really force that creative juice out of my mind, because I'm kind of taking it seriously, but then also in a casual manner. April 17th, 2025. Transforming lust to curiosity power. Studying economics for 25 days straight somehow helped me avoid all that lust bullshit and made me more curious with the subject. Doesn't feel like I need to lust anymore. Think before it was mainly because I was bored and wanted some dopamine sparks. But after cutting out sources like Spotify, social media, shitty food, then lust, feels like sometimes there's a part of me that feels missing in this exciting end. And that's actually a really interesting point, because one thing that I'm actually still noticing even after 7 months from this journal entry is how after cutting out all of these like petty bullshit in your life and these things that gives you sparks of dopamine, I've realized that I just feel this sense of peace. And in the beginning, this sense of peace kind of bothers me because I'm always expecting something more exciting. I'm always expecting this happiness to be flowing from time to time. And this still sometimes makes me fall into the habits of looking back into some of my older YouTube videos that I watch where it's all about entertainment and really not productive. But then over time, it's just like you adapt to getting less dopamine hits and you adapt to just being kind of like just a human, right? Just being a human being doing things that will align with your life purpose and just learning. But in the long run, I feel more energetic and consistent with my emotions. Guess the biggest factor cure for me is finding something that you are deeply curious about, then having a clear path/curriculum to study with, then doing some exploration on your own in between topics. Been thinking about this feeling of not knowing that Leo explained on Actualized. Kind of true how we are programmed to fear the unknown. So yes, I'm gonna try and release myself to the unknown without having that much preparations. Try not to plan too much in the summer Stanford and let it flow, but sometimes overthinking gets the best out of me. Yeah, that last sentence is pretty impactful and pretty self-aware, because once you understand that you're someone who overthinks, then there really is two approaches to it, right? Either you accept it, or either you fall into the loop where you're complaining about it and you're always stressing and thinking about, oh, how can I stop overthinking it? So then once I accept that I'm someone who likes to overthink, then I just let it happen, without judging it. I just let the overthinking happen. And if it does disrupt some kind of daily routine, then you just find some kind of alternate strategy to help minimize that overthinking. So, for example, one of the biggest signs of my overthinking is when I'm about to fall asleep. And my brain just keeps going on a rant and keeps thinking about this and thinking about that. So, what I did to minimize that overthinking is focusing more on my breath and focusing more on my body. So, I would just do some breathing and just count numbers, and that will help distract my overthinking and eventually help me fall asleep. So really just accepting it and just finding a solution without being too harsh on yourself is something really powerful when you start to realize the patterns of some of your limitations or some of your natural ways of being in life. And another point with journaling in general, when you're talking about these problems that you're facing, is that most of the time we think that these problems are huge things, especially when we don't dump it down onto a page and we leave it in our head flowing. Like, what we think is that this problem is going to cause this and it's going to be changing my life completely in the negative way, and that's why I have to panic about it, I have to think a lot about it. But then once you journal it down and you're really looking at it from a third person perspective, because it's like the problem is on the page and you're someone directly consulting the problem itself, you'll start to realize that the problem is actually not that significant. And that will help calm all of your emotions down and make you respond to the problem with clarity rather than irrationally acting upon that problem or falling to this negative rabbit loop of feeling depressed with this problem. So that was something that I really loved about journaling, which I think is super effective. And finally, one last point with journaling is I realized that as I started journal, time just flies by really slowly. This is something really subjective that you can't really measure, but for me personally, like when I look back into 3 months ago or 6 months ago, I'm just completely a different person. Like, it's kind of crazy how much information and how many things happen on a daily level, right? And most people, when you talk to them, they're like, why does time fly by so quickly, right? And I think one of the key indicators when someone says time fly by quickly is scientifically, people would say time flies by quickly because you're spending it in a really nice way. You're spending it in a really happy way. You're feeling super excited. So then time flies by, right? But then on the other hand, my perspective on this is that time flies by really quickly because you haven't been accomplishing things in your life. You haven't been growing, right? When I look back 3 months ago, I see how much of a person I've grown, no matter if it's mentally, physically, spiritually, or whatever, right? I'm able to, from my journal, see every single day like the compounding effect itself. And I think that's one really super useful thing with journaling, especially when you're trying to maximize your life or if you're trying to actually live a fulfilled life, is you're able to track what's been going on and then sail to different directions based on what's been happening in your life, so then you could do something more purposeful and more passionate. So what are some dangers of journaling? We all talk about the benefits of journaling, but then everything in the world has duality, right? If there's benefits, there's always going to be dangers with it, right? If you have some kind of challenge in your life, then there's always going to be a growth point. There's always going to be a positive learning for you with that challenge. Something that I really observe with journaling is because you're building this identity of yourself through these journaling, if you take it in a way where it defines you, then it could really constrain you. And what do I mean by taking it in a way that defines you? It's like, once you identify a particular pattern in the journaling, and let's just say you start to implement this routine and you find that it's really useful from journaling, right? One potential challenge that you may face is that you may be resistant to change or test something new because you found this conclusion. But then one thing with life in general is if you understand that we're all evolving in different degrees, and we're all passing through our teenagehood and into adulthood, and things happen here and there. We need to be careful of clinging on to beliefs and strictly following them, even though eventually over time it may wear out because of a particular growth or anything. So it's very important to also unlearn the things that you learn. And by unlearning, it just means being open to discovering new areas of yourself and being willing to change. Because with journaling, it's like you're a scientist of your life and you have all of these data points, right? And over time, you have this trend line or this correlation that you found with this data point. So then you conclude that because I have these data points, it means that I must be this. And it can be really super dangerous because those life circumstances during those days may be different from your future life circumstances. So then we need to use journaling as just a way to find just general patterns in general and understand our nature of who we are, rather than making some specific conclusions about doing this or doing that. To a certain extent, like you could say like journaling is a way to boost your ego as well, because you kind of realize how much you've accomplished over time. But then the thing is, we need to accept where we are and just move on. Because if we just cling to the past and we just focus so much on the past, why not just focus more on what you can be doing and how much you can be growing, rather than being stuck in the past moment. So in general, a healthy habit that I found with journaling is just re-looking at these journal entries whenever you have an idea that spark and you're like, oh wait, I remember I did it this day, and you want to look back. Or normally if that doesn't happen, then just looking back at it once a month, right? Just reviewing things that have happened, seeing where you can go, because it can really help you align with what your future goals are and what your annual goals are as well. So yeah, that was a really quick snippet into how I approach journaling and some interesting thoughts here and there. So I'll actually love to hear from you. Like, what do you guys do when it comes to journaling? Because again, there's no correct or wrong way with journaling. Everyone has their own unique perspective, unique lifestyle. So I'd love to hear how journaling have impacted your life and whether or not you have some similar experiences with journaling. That's the end of this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.